Like many people, I'm a product of the 1980s and the 1990s when martial arts films ruled the air. And yeah, then we get to the 2010s and things like Mörk Borg hit the role playing game scene, 2020s as well, obviously. And I didn't ever consider that these two things could meet in a mythic samurai bloodbath, which is, of course, Ronin, currently funding on Kickstarter. I'm really excited that we have Sacha from Slightly Reckless Games who's come to talk to us about this amazing project. It's on Kickstarter right now. And if you're excited, please hit like, please subscribe, help us level up this channel. And well, we can see exactly how amazing this game is going to be. So without further ado, my name is Phil, and with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forests, and the Coolest Cats, welcome to the Dark Orb. Sacha, welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hello, thanks for having me, Phil.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. It's so cool. I'm really, really looking forward to this game. But I don't think I can do explaining what this product is any justice compared to your good self. I know you've got an incredible background in cinematic thinking. Let's delve right in and talk about Ronin. So please tell me, what is Ronin?
In the simplest terms, it is a dark fantasy samurai themed Mörk Borg hack.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, like big influences from like Kurosawa, Sekiro, all those kind of old Japanese films, samurai films in general. We've got kind of like new mechanics built in, such as resurrection, seppuku, parrying. I've probably forgot some, but they're all listed on the Kickstarter.
There's more than 3, I'm sure.
Yes, there is definitely more than 3. But yeah, it's kind of like a love letter to old Japanese cinema and samurai films in general.
Amazing. And certainly going from the Kickstarter, and we'll have a look at the page in a bit anyway. But yeah, just that first paragraph really gets it for me. Welcome to Ronin, a rules-lite tabletop RPG set in a mythical samurai-inspired world based on the Mörk Borg system. Ronin is a game of honor, combat, and adventure in a world ravaged by eternal eclipse and overrun by supernatural creatures known as yōkai, where players take on the roles of forgotten Ronin, shinobi, onmyoji, and more as they seek to restore their honor and defeat the forces of darkness. And it's kind of feels like almost a pull away from the Mörk Borg idea that everything is just screwed and you're all scum.
Yeah.
And obviously the samurai way of thinking is about that honor and your code being very intrinsic to who you are. So the moment you lose that, it's a problem.
Yes.
By the way, if you're watching live and you have any questions, please hit the comments. Bring them in. Let's hear them. Let's hear your questions and your comments, and we'll discuss those throughout the show. Yeah, where do you start? How did you come up with the idea of merging these two kind of realms together? Did you start off with having an idea that you wanted to do a samurai game and then looking for a system? Did you play the heck out of Mörk Borg and then go, oh, I've got an idea?
It's kind of like, it's a bit of a long story, but I think early last year, I purchased a TTRPG that was based on a well-known IP and ran that for my group. And it was kind of, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but it wasn't great. It wasn't you could tell it wasn't play tested. It wasn't handled faithfully and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But then I saw the Blade Runner TTRPG, and I was like I love Blade Runner and Cyberpunk and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll give it another try, and if this turns out to be rubbish, then I'll kind of leave IP-based TTRPGs at the door. But it ended up being fantastic. It's one of the greatest sessions I've ever ran for our group, and that kind of got me interested in Free League.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd seen Mörk Borg, like it's such an iconic, like that black and yellow cover and black and yellow is like my favorite colors. But I was kind of like, I don't know what it is, and then looked into it a little
I
bit.
still don't know what it is, but it's great.
Yeah. So then I kind of went down the Mörk Borg rabbit hole, as I think many of us have done. You know, these Pirate Borg and Death in Space and Vasgrim, and kind of started looking at how all these different people. Mine are in the other room. Kind of looking at how all these different companies and people had like reinterpreted the Mörk Borg system, and the kind of freedom that that system allowed for kind of started sparking ideas in my brain. And I was like, oh, maybe you could do this, or maybe you could do that. And like, my initial idea was to do, because I was reading Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology at the time. I was going to go down the kind of Norse gods and kind of like, especially because in that book, like some of the scenarios are like, you know, Loki stealing Thor's wife's hair and she's bald, and it felt very like TTRPG to me. It was kind of like the kind of capers that you get up to. And I kind of sat on that for a while and kind of wrote some stuff, and I was like, I don't know if I've got the kind of, I think they could have made something cool, no doubt, but like my true kind of like passion, and I like it almost like a few days after coming up with the Norse idea, I was like, oh, what about samurais? What about old Japan? Like, obviously I've got a lot of experience in watching those kind of films and a deep appreciation of like Japanese culture and stuff. So I started writing, and then it was kind of like just something that I was going to do for our group. And then I started speaking to my business partner, and he was like, yeah, that sounds great. What about if we did some art like this? And then I started getting in touch with artists, and it was kind of like a really organic process to get into the point where I was like, oh yeah, we should see if other people have got an interest in this kind of thing. And obviously since launching the Kickstarter, people do seem to have an interest in it, which is great.
Yeah, you're now at 468 backers at time of recording, and we've still got like 3 weeks to go. And yeah, I think it looks great, and it's quite clear that you've already invested loads in the art, and I'm sure there's more to come.
Absolutely,
especially if you want to keep up with that kind of the Mörk Borg vibe. You know, it's all design heavy, but I think a lot of people
all the pages are kind of like laid out, at least like in description terms. Like I know where the text's going and I know what the text is. It's just kind of about 30% of the book's kind of finished at the moment, and then we just need to do those last bits. And this Kickstarter will help us get more art
and certainly
kind of stuff like that.
And we've got some of the kind of the layouts like here, and I mean you've ruled the feeling of everything really. The style is I really want to talk to you about Seppuku, so we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Of the layout and the covers look great. Do you have any idea about this? Maybe actually already demonstrated in the campaign. I haven't checked about page count. Do you have an idea of that yet?
Yeah, it should be close to 120, give or take a few pages, depending on like editing and additions and stuff like that. So it's a little bit meatier than the original Mörk Borg, but it's not quite like Pirate Borg level, where I think Pirate Borg's kind of like 130, 160 maybe.
Yeah, but you're kind of pushing for that realm, and certainly, you know, with things like stretch goals and stuff, we might end up with more. Obviously, you have to kind of calculate the pages quite carefully, because you know it's all done in page counts these days. Well, always. But it's certainly it's going to be a decent melee weapon. Let's face it. Quite often you'll see with these books, and this is something I was talking about. Mohammed, great to see you. Mohammed says, I immediately backed it on the first day. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
In fact, if we do have live comments, I'll pop the chat overlay out that way. In fact,
yes,
if that's the case. But I forgot what I was saying. What were we talking about?
The Kickstarter art page count.
No, it's gone. Oh no, I know what I was saying. There seems to be a tendency at the moment, and some tournaments says same here. So excited for Rōnin, loving this. Thank you so much. Loving this chat. It's always good to hear. Right, so yes, I've seen quite a lot recently where we've got a lot of books that are maybe more towards the zine size, but they're still getting hardcovers. And some of them are more Borgy. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus either, but certainly a couple of things that I received recently have not had the page count that I would have hoped for, given the retail price or the price that I paid. And that's not to say that they weren't beautiful, but I think, page count doesn't really factor too much into the cost of producing a book. But obviously, the art and the logistics does. And it's mostly the art and the layout and the time that costs money, I would guess. I would, say. So we popped the comments out, and now we probably won't get any more.
Yeah, classic.
Keep those comments coming in, guys and girls. So it looks like a really fun game, and looking through the Kickstarter itself, even the character sheets, which we can see. If I pop out this one here, really stylish, really fun.
Yeah.
Mohammed says, "Is there plans for VTT?"
Yes and no. We're currently exploring kind of like, I've just seen, I think everyone's seen the Alchemy VTT stuff floating around on Twitter.
Yes.
Roll, kind of things we're kind of exploring, but one of the later stretch goals will be a thing similar to Scumbertha. So you can go online to the website, click randomized, or put in whatever class you kind of want to do, and it'll do it for you. As I say, it's a later stretch goal, so hopefully we reach it. If not, it's something we've kind of got plans for.
Yeah, it's not a core priority of the project, but it's something
that's on our radar for sure.
Yeah, awesome. I think that will really help. I know a lot of people. So, I mean, the Scumbertha type thing, which for anyone who doesn't know, Scumbertha is a Mörk Borg website for like really quickly and easily creating a new character. Which, when you're playing Mörk Borg, and I don't know if you're aiming for the same sort of feel in Rōnin, you need it because it can be super
That's
deadly.
Why you have backups for the session we're going to be running with Doug, because while it is fast to make a new character, it is kind of, it's easier if we've got a pre-gen just waiting in the background.
Yeah. So I'll just mention that very quickly. So if you are excited about Rōnin and you want to see how it plays at the table, well, our good friend Doug from Victory Condition Gaming has something special for you. On the 8th of May, I think it's looking at the moment, there will be an actual play of Rōnin. You heard it here first or second, or some other enumeration. There'll be an actual play on Victory Condition Gaming. So for those of you who are not out celebrating King Chuck and his new hat, come and hang out with Victory Condition Gaming. I'm sorry to say that it looks like I'm going to be there as well. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. If you're excited about that, please like and subscribe and all that stuff here. And go and talk to Doug as well over on Victory Condition Gaming. And if you don't know his channel, you should. He's amazing. So what I would say, though, is with VTT, so going back to this question from Mohammed, I don't know if really you need VTT for Mörk Borg games so much.
No, me neither. Like the way we've been playing, we haven't used the map once because we just haven't needed to. It's all been like very cinematic and theater of the mind. So, the Scumbertha kind of thing I think would be helpful, but I don't think like the VTT is not like super necessary. I think you can just jump in a Discord chat or jump online with your friends, and I think you could still run it perfectly fine.
Yeah, and the thing with especially with Mörk Borg is it's player facing. So normally when you're running a game, you kind of need that VTT, or you might need the VTT to do all the heavy lifting, all the crunching of numbers, and to roll all the dice for you, and to do all the adding, the minuses, and look up all the tables and stuff. I've found with Mörk Borg when I've run it that, especially because it's player facing, which basically means that the GM doesn't really have to roll dice. You can at times, but you don't really have to. That makes it much easier to just tell the story. And the system is simple enough that as a player, as long as you've got a D20 and maybe some dice for your weapons, if they call for, well, you normally need, a different die for damage or whatnot, then you're fine. You just roll a number and hope that it's in the right direction.
Yeah,
basically.
it's not like
it's nothing too crazy. It's not open.
Like I ran a few Cyberpunk sessions during lockdown, and having a VTT for that was like such a time saver because it's so many dice and so many calculations, and the distance between characters matters and stuff like that. So the VTT has its place, but it's not necessary for Rōnin by any stretch of the means.
So watch this space. It'd probably be good for adding atmosphere, particularly if you're looking at like alchemy, for example, which looks like it's going to be really pushing towards that cinematic feel, but you might not need it for just running the game kind of basically. And you're going for that kind of fast-paced cinematic feel, right? For this, not like a slow, drudgy kind of dungeon crawl.
Oh, absolutely. Like sometimes, like during playtesting and stuff like that, the sessions fly by anyway, but like I've been playing TTRPGs for like, well, probably around 10 years, maybe a little bit more now. And kind of like the thing that always sometimes could slow a session down would be a combat where it becomes kind of almost like a war of attrition between what's going on the table if you've got like a map and stuff like that. And just managing everything from a GM point of view, having run Rōnin now for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks now, it's like going into combat. Combat sometimes is over quicker than RP scenarios, and that's not just because the characters are mowing enemies down. Sometimes it's the enemies that are mowing the characters down, and it's just a case of like, okay, let's roll up some new characters, or if the case needs it, if it's the first time a character's died, they go to Yomi and have a boss battle, and then if they win, they come back and we carry on. And it's been very fluid, and that's what I've kind of liked about it.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about first of all honor. So tell me how honor works in this game. I know that's something that is important.
Oh, 100%.
First of all, obviously we know it's important to samurai in the first place, but within Rōnin.
Yeah, so honor in Rōnin is like almost like a character stat. When you make a character, the first time you ever make a character, you will roll 3d6 plus or minus if you're using an optional class, what that class kind of modifies. So like the more honorable classes have a little bit of a bonus, the less honorable classes have a little bit of a minus. When you make a character using one of the optional classes, you are given a tenets, which is 6 kind of, they're broken down into 6 one-word things, but they have little descriptions in the book. So, samurai has Bushido, Ronin has the Ronin's Creed, and it's stuff like loyalty or, benevolence or like kindness or self-sacrifice or personal mastery, stuff like that. So when you're playing the game, you kind of have to use that as kind of like alignment in D&D, but it has a mechanical effect. So, if you do something that is kind of a slight misstep, say, while you're playing, that goes against one of those tenets, the GM can say, okay, roll a D4, take that from your honor. And honor is a score that goes from 1 to 20. If you are 10 or above, you are classed as honorable. If you are 9 and below, you are dishonorable. NPCs in the game will react differently to characters who are honorable or dishonorable. They'll have heard tales of the kind of dishonorable or honorable deeds that the characters will have done while playing, or even like in the backstory. Say your character dies, and I mean like not dies and goes to Yomi, dies like for good, and you have to make a new character. If your last character was honorable, you'll get a +1 bonus to each stat when you're rolling the next character. Same for if you're dishonorable, you get a -1 stat. So it's something like when you're playing, you have to be kind of always mindful of your tenets and how you act, and it was just kind of, after playing years of D&D and stuff, alignment never really came into it when we were playing, or like if it did, I feel like everyone just ends up playing chaotic. This kind of was a way to bring a similar kind of system, but it has kind of impacts in the game and also impacts on character creation and stuff like that.
Nice. And you mentioned that you could lose honor, like, you know, DM gets you to roll a d4. Can you regain honor?
Yes. So regaining honor through actions isn't something that will happen often in the game. It's kind of like, it's a given that you should hold up those creeds. It's only if you go above and beyond that you would get to roll something and add it to your honor. It's more a case of like, don't do anything that's against those. But say you have a dishonorable character, you want to regain that honor, you would have to go, you can commit seppuku, where you would have to ritually prepare your surroundings and kind of meditate on your actions, and then pass a spirit test, and then have to disembowel yourself by passing quite a difficult by passing quite a difficult resilience test. If successful, you get a permanent +5 bonus to your honor score, but you do die. And if it's the second time you've died, you just die and make a new character. But hopefully you completed the seppuku well enough that you would get the bonuses to your next character.
Wait, but you've died. So what happens then?
So in the game, if a character dies, the first time they die, they are sent to Yomi, which is the kind of underworld where we have kind of, there's 5 Yomi demons that are all kind of tailored to the classes. So you would face someone that's kind of similar in style of combat to you. If you are successful, which I think it's probably about 60% success rate so far, maybe 65. If you are successful, you are resurrected with a scar, which gives a -1 negative to one of the stats of your choosing. But you gain +5 to your honor also from beating the Yomi demon, and you may continue along the path of the warrior and carry on playing the campaign. If you die the second time, that's it, you're dead for good.
So you get 1 free trip back to try and right your wrongs.
Exactly, yeah. And they've been like, so far, they've been the highlight of playtesting. As I was saying before, it's kind of like, we ran a session where, introductory session, you have like the first fight, it was just a few like kind of zombie type creatures, but there was like 2 of them, like supposed to be husks, supposed to be just kind of like fodder to get the character together, and it did not go that way. They rolled very well. I was sent to Yomi, and then another character was sent to Yomi in the same battle. So we had 1 character that was left in the overworld fighting a battle against these husks, and then 2 of us down in Yomi fighting this monk. We managed to win, came back up to the overworld, but then still had to deal with the husks. I managed to deal with the husks, but the other 2 died after coming back to Yomi. So it was it went from like your introductory husk fighting session to this epic boss battle and like people going up between worlds, and then 2 other characters had died in the first 5 minutes. It was epic, but it was a lot of fun.
Sounds incredible. So I'm going to. We've got a question from Tormund, but I'm going to preface that with saying or asking, can you tell me about Kage no Shima?
Yes.
And the question from lovely follower is the setting apocalyptic by nature, like Mörk Borg, or is the world of Rōnin a bit more hopeful?
It is apocalyptic by nature. There is an endless eclipse that's kind of ravaged the lands and brought about these kind of demons and creatures. If anyone's kind of read or seen Berserk, it's kind of similar to that. But there is hope, obviously, in a game that's based on honor. People are kind of, in spite of this kind of apocalyptic nature of the island. People are hopeful. People still cling on to the codes of their honor to kind of guide them, and hopefully, maybe they can bring about the end of the eclipse and bring fortune back to the land. But it is quite a dark setting, and it doesn't pull any punches. And we do have something similar to the calendar of Necrobell, where you roll, depending on the length of your campaign, you use a D4 to a D100, and if you roll a 1, something bad will happen. And so we do have that kind of element in there, but it's certainly a little bit more hopeful than Galgenbeck and those kind of places.
And that eclipse that you mentioned, so looking at the covers for the book, the standard cover looks like this, but yes. I would presume that is the eclipse that we're talking about.
Yes, that is the eclipse, and there's on the other cover the kind of big circle behind the character is also supposed to represent the eclipse too. So it's definitely a core part of the world building and the environments we're playing in.
Yeah, and that hardcover looks stunning. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. I know that Doug over at Victory Condition Gaming put some thoughts down on an episode of his show a few days ago. Sorry, Doug, I only got about halfway through it because, real life. But I know that he had some kind of excited questions about what the cover might be made of. I think we spoke in the green room. It's going to be made of hard.
Yes,
the hard cover.
Something certainly not liquid, definitely not a gas. No, we originally planned for it to be faux leather, but one of the backers actually said that the durability of faux leather wasn't kind of up to the standard that they wanted, so they recommended cloth. So it's kind of something we're looking into with the printers and discussing. We'll kind of go with whatever's the best quality.
I can imagine that faux leather, particularly if you went for a foil imprint, would probably be much more striking.
Yes.
My argument, and it's not like I'm made of money, but I don't smoke and I very, very rarely drink, so all my money goes on this sort of crap. But I personally would probably prefer faux leather myself, but then I would never use the book. Probably I would keep that book on the shelf and then just use the standard edition for having at the table. We were.
If people want to buy 2 and do that, that's absolutely fine by me.
It's just me. I'm an idiot. So we talk on this show about the fill level, and the fill level is like whatever the top level is on any given
Kickstarter.
Kind of Kickstarter, apart from the retailer pledge.
I'll have to look at renaming our pledge levels and put fill level at the top.
She's got one of everything. Kage no Shima. Let's talk about the island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a good variety of biomes within the island. Japan's kind of like great for a game setting because obviously the way the Japanese islands are situated, you've got like Hokkaido at the north, where it's kind of like this mountainous, cold region, all the way down to like Okinawa, where you've got these kind of like beaches and kind of almost jungle-like settings. So it's been great to work with a Japanese setting for this island because it means you can include all those kind of things and it still feels right. You don't have to kind of like shoehorn anything in or explain anything. Yeah. But so the scenario in the book is set in a jungle.
Awesome.
So you're kind of told about the kind of myth of this Scarlet Temple. And you basically get taken to this kind of smaller offshoot island that's inhabited with like snakes and tigers. And if anyone's played Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, there's lots of like survival mechanics and stuff like that in there where you have to kind of use the flora and the animals in that location to survive. Because something we've added and adapted from Mörk Borg was we wanted to go in more of a survivability kind of game. So anytime you short rest or long rest, I don't know how it works. I can't remember how it works in Mörk Borg, but in our book version, it's you use 1 food and 1 water every time you rest and get health back. So you start with 4 of each, D4 of each. You can start with 1 of each, and then you kind of on your own after that. You have to kind of clamber food and resources as you play.
That sounds amazing. And there are 6 classes. You've got the erudite samurai,
Yes.
forgotten ronin,
Yeah.
the drunken monk,
Yeah.
the corrupted shinobi,
Yeah.
onmyoji, which
Yeah.
is a spellcasting hermit, bakuto, which is yakuza, or like a
Yes. kind of like your brawler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all have their own honors. We spoke about honors earlier,
Yep.
and abilities. Do you have a favorite?
No. I think I've played every single one now, and they're all kind of unique in their own way. And something I was kind of mindful of when I was designing the classes was that I didn't want people to kind of, obviously the game's called Ronin. There are going to be people who gravitate towards samurai and the Ronin. I didn't want those to be the only classes, if that makes sense. So I kind of put more effort into making the drunken monk and the other classes really distinct and have like some really cool abilities. So like the drunken monk's got an ability called 5-finger death punch. It's also got an ability called roadhouse, where you can kill a player and not a player, Jesus, an enemy instantly. I mean,
it's a bit hardcore, this game.
Yeah, don't go too far if you're playing a drunken monk. But like take the Bakuto, for example. I thought it could be like, I just didn't want them to be like throwaway characters. I wanted them to stand up to the level of like Ronin and samurai and have their own powers and distinctions.
Outstanding, amazing. And in terms of your bad guys, so you're pulling in yōkai, so like folklore monsters. Have you kind of gone for an interpretation of pretty traditional kind of folklore creatures?
Yeah, so there's some kind of well-known ones on there, like Kappa, and like we've got Ryu and the legendary creatures. So like your dragons and your like learning about those creatures has been one of the most interesting things. Like I was telling my business partner a story about like Kappas in old Japanese history, and how this doctor said he was attacked by a Kappa and they put the hand up the toilet and like grabbed his ass. And then he said he chopped the Kappa's arm off, and then the Kappa came back and was like, "Can I have my arm back?" And he said, "Yeah, if you make me the best doctor in the village," kind of thing. Which apparently all happened and is very true. But like today, Kappa's used as like marketing for recycling and stuff like that. So a session recently, we worked that in. So a group of Kappas were angry at the village for polluting the local water system. So we kind of helped the Kappa burn down the village at the end of the session. But we've got like kind of lesser known ones like Roroku Ruby. What else have we got in there? Tengu. They're quite a well known one that I included in the. I've just kind of given it away, but there'll be Tengu in the scenario I run with Doug in a few weeks.
You've got Kappa only, skeleton ronin.
Yeah.
Loads of tables for shrines, nicknames, critical injuries, encounters, adventure hooks, traps, weather, loot, and more. I love tables. Tables in games are really great.
Me too.
I played a lot, and if you've ever seen any of our actual plays, we played a lot of Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Yeah.
Which is basically a book of tables with a game built in somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I think they're like being able to just, because sometimes like you've probably found it yourself, like when you're running a long kind of campaign, when it comes down to the planning and stuff, it takes a lot of time. It takes takes time to include and make the stories personal and stuff. But like just having a bunch of tables there for when you're playing just means you can focus the planning on the actual story stuff and just leave so you can just write trap or enemy, and then you roll on the tables and see what happens. And it's always
I don't like that one, and then do it again. No, I don't like that one either.
And you're like, I should just pick anyway.
I'd love to know a little bit. We'll have a look at the art and have a little look at the campaign in a second. But I'd love to know some of your influences and kind of what I guess. Yeah, so things like kind of media influences that you've kind of pulled into this. Like it feels like a really traditional a mixture of really traditional cinema and maybe some anime, plus of course the gaming influences. But is there anything that you kind of really pulled from that is kind of sacrosanct that helped you with this?
100%. Like I think I said, when we were talking in the green room, that like I grew up watching cowboy films and stuff like that with my granddad, and his favorite film is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I kind of got a deep love for those like old westerns, and then it wasn't until like I grew up and went to do like film studies and media studies and stuff like that that I kind of was introduced to Kurosawa and all those old Japanese cinema, samurai films, and then you kind of watch Kurosawa films and go, "Oh, that's just a cowboy film. That's they just stole all that," and especially like Tarantino, like it's all he loves cowboy films, but also because he knows so much about cinema, he's pulling from Kurosawa as well, and then so I've always had a love for that kind of stuff, and then like you say, anime, manga, video games. Like I think I played Sekiro for the first time 2 years ago, and it instantly became my favorite game. Miyazaki, the way he designs games with that kind of like, with the way the laws kind of scattered around, and it's up to you whether you want to like how much you want to engage with the story, but the game's still like hard as fuck, but like really good and like exciting. So
you're
Sekiro was
basically just showing off how good a gamer you are at this point.
I didn't say I'd finished it. I did though. I was sweating by the end. But yeah, Sekiro was a big influence. Berserk, the new chapter of that is out tomorrow, and I'm very excited. Obviously,
Don't get distracted. You've got a job to do.
Yeah. Well, it'll release in Japanese first anyway, but Kentaro Miura created this 22-decade plus long manga that no one really knew about in the 90s to like so beloved now. The way he kind of blended English medieval kind of themes with like the Japanese culture was a real big influence for me. It's kind of like I did the reverse. I took the Japanese culture and tried to mesh it with Western ideas and stuff like that. So
I have to do it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the campaign.
Yep.
We can dive straight in with. Here we go. I'm just going to scroll this all the way back to the top, which I should have done at the beginning. If you haven't checked the video out, super cool. Definitely worth checking out. The Mörk Borg you know and love, disemboweled and resurrected on the island of Kage, Shima, death before surrender. 20 days to go, 468 backers. And you can get a really good idea of how this all feels by just scrolling through this. I'm just going to see if I can just make this window a little bigger. There we go. That's better. And actually, there we go. Right, so you can get a good idea of the layout. We showed some of those pictures earlier on, talking about sepulchre and resurrection. And yeah, it's looking gorgeous. I will say that. As I said, it's quite clear that you've invested an awful lot in the artwork. This isn't the sort of stuff that you just throw together in paint.net and then other art packages are available.
The artists we've had working on this, Brandon Yu is the lead artist. I can't praise him enough. I haven't needed to like give him. We're at the point now where I'll just say, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this," and then 3 days later, in the middle of the night, he'll send me something. He's based in Singapore, so the time difference kind of means I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I look at something and I go, "Wow, that's fucking amazing," and then I go back to sleep, and then I wake up and look again.
Dream all about it.
And he's like built on it and changed it a bit, and he's been fantastic. I can't praise him enough. And then Chemo did a bunch of the monster designs. I think Punkpador, he's known as on Twitter. He's done these kind of like manga style versions of the monsters, and they look great as well. Hang on, I think the cat's choking. 2 secs.
Oh dear.
What are you doing?
The joy of cats. I think mine is downstairs somewhere. But hopefully the cat is fine. I shall just do that. So let's, whilst we wait for Sacha to come back, let's have a good look. So, as we were saying, the layout I think is really gorgeous. So we've got the character sheets, which they just look really fun, really basic, but everything you need is there. And just scrolling through what you have with the the different art, the different pages, the layout, you get really good feeling for what the book's going to be like. And this is really in keeping, I think, with the I guess the style reminds me a little bit more, not in terms of art style, but in terms of layout, of the kind of the Pirate Borg kind of approach, in that it's all quite clean. This isn't this isn't like the original Mörk Borg book where you open it up and get a migraine, which I love. Not the migraine. But it looks like Sacha is back, so the cat has probably survived.
Yeah, he's just been a drama queen.
Well, I'm glad he's okay. So yeah, we've got stretch goals, and we are down here at the tarot cards. Only
Yes.
6. You can't do a full reading with 6 cards. Joking.
Yeah, tarot relates to the size more than they can be used to predict the future. But yeah,
And
there's
I reckon
something
that looks like a ribbon.
well, I mean, I couldn't possibly say.
I can guess that one is extra arses. Classes.
Yes, 50% more arses in the book.
Literally, you can play as any of these additional arses. Yeah, so I mean that they're going up nicely. So the next one is 25 or 30, 25. So we're nearly there, which is great.
We're actually testing out the tarot cards in the next session. Hopefully, we'll have digital versions for when I run it for you and Doug and the gang.
Yeah,
it's just something that we've noticed, obviously, because the character sheet's only so big, you can only fit so much on. So the
hey Joel, thank you for joining.
Hey Joel. The tenets are kind of broken down into these 6 one-word things that you write on the character sheet, but just having a card that has the kind of lengthier descriptions on there will just help when you're playing. So a quality of life thing, but I think it's going to make life a bit smoother next week.
Great. Sounds great. And I can certainly see how that would be really valuable at the table, because what you've built into this system is the idea that you want to be virtuous, and you strive to be virtuous because your next character, their abilities are influenced by how virtuous you were in your previous incarnation.
Yes.
So absolutely, whilst you can play as some scoundrel or some, kind of...
Absolutely. It's not to say you can't go against those virtues and tenets. And the last character I played, I ended up threatening a doctor so he would save my life. I had a matchlock pistol pointed at him, and I ended up going down to 1 honor. And I will say that my next character did roll with -1 stats, but it's kind of you don't spend, it's not like you're spending years with these characters. So it's kind of like, if you want to play a scoundrel, like you say, play a scoundrel, and yeah, you might have a little bit of a knock on your next character, but then you can go the other way and play like a more virtuous. And
have you thought about having those bonuses or boons or benefits stack?
No. No, it's... I feel like people will just... I'm not to say that my group would abuse it, but you could end up with a situation where a character just commits seppuku about 5 times, make a new character until they've min-maxed themselves into oblivion. What was I going to say?
It would be entertaining.
Oh, there's so the shinobi, it is the honor kind of side of things, and the tenets are generally managed by the characters. So it's on them to kind of say, oh, I slipped up a little bit there, or definitely on the GM as well, but it's more on the characters. But the shinobi has tenets called the unseen virtues, and they can actually lie to the GM about actions and whether they're kind of going against their tenets or playing their tenets. It's just a neat little thing. If you're playing the shinobi, you get to lie to the GM, which is always nice.
We're all about lying to the GM. All right, let's have a look at the pledge levels.
Yes.
So, starting at £15 to get the PDF. I like that that's not super cheap because it's really expensive putting a book together, even if it's not physical.
Yeah.
So I kind of come full circle. I think there are some companies out there that maybe price their books their PDFs a bit too high, but I really do kind of.
I honestly think generally it's from what I've seen over the past like couple of years, people almost indie companies anyway that I've seen, people generally undervalue and undersell the PDF. It's almost like, you know, seen as this like, oh well, you know, we're not making a physical thing, so we can do it for really cheap. Where, like you say, it's not cheap to make.
No. I mean that the printing and the distribution. I mean, distribution probably costs more than printing, I would guess. But that's such a small fraction compared to the everything else.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen that. I've seen the numbers from other projects, and you kind of go, "Oh, okay." Like, you know, literally, you know, we're talking big volume books. You know, like, you know, your kind of your D&D and your, you know, whatever, 3D books or whatever. You know, kind of the book itself is like £1 to produce or less.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of printing, but that's not where the expense is. So yeah, and then you've got your hardcover book, £35, with digital stretch goals, digital asset pack, a PDF.
Yep.
So you get the PDF for free. So, you know, £20 off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hardcover book with the tear off character sheets. Tear off character sheets are fun. You might not need them all that often if you're just going to use the Scumbertha type equivalent, but I always try and get hold of the character sheets because I just think it's great to have something physical when you're at the table.
Absolutely, yeah. And if it's anything like, you know, the Mörk Borg ones, I haven't seen those in stock anywhere for over 6 months, 8 months. So
I've got, I think I might have 2 pads of them,
right,
and I haven't actually managed to use them yet. Every single Mörk Borg game I've played or run has been online.
Oh, really?
It will happen at some point. I should sell them for lots. Then you've got your beautiful hardcover limited edition, with, I guess that's referencing the PDF version there.
Yeah.
Might want to throw a little PDF icon on that. Just to kind of disambiguate it. But yeah, £65 for the hardcover luxury limited edition with hard cover that's different, and digital and physical stretch goals. Which you also get, by the way, if you get the tear off character sheet hardcover book there. I missed that. And then you've got what we lovingly refer to, apparently, in the Dark Orb circles as the fill level.
Yeah, the fill level, yeah.
I'm not entirely sure why, because it's not like I backed it at this level. Totally backed it at this level. Where you get the hardcover, the standard hardcover, you get the limited edition hardcover, so you get the one you actually use and the one that looks pretty on the shelf. Physical and digital assets, PDF. And yeah, keep an eye on those stretch goals, because the more we push for success in this project, the more we get for our money.
Absolutely.
One thing, and there's your credits. You're amazingly talented.
Yes, Tonton. I didn't shout him out before, but Tonton Revolver is based in France. He works for I don't know if I can say who he works for. He works for a AAA gaming company that is based in France. You can probably work it out from that.
Just do the Googles.
Yeah. He did the cover and absolutely blown away by it. It was working with him. I kind of gave him the idea. He sent a few sketches over, and he immediately went to the place that I wanted him to go. So
amazing. And that's really hard. I've worked with artists, and especially when there's a language barrier. Even though, you know, most people speak English exceptionally well, but when it comes to art, it can be really difficult to articulate. As a client, it's hard to articulate what you want, even if you send references, because, you know, you send references, but you don't want something that's a carbon copy. You know, that's not what we're here for. So when you get that relationship with someone where they just get, or you have that kind of, you gel together and you just get what each other's trying to say, that's so valuable. And it's really clear that that's what's happened here.
I think
Shipping,
like sorry, I think being based in like obviously working in video production and stuff, like
yeah,
we get given a lot of briefs and stuff. Like me and my business partner Dominic, who has helped me make Rōnin, and he's done all the kind of layout and design and stuff like that, and helped develop the game. We usually get briefs that are, sometimes you get briefs that are like, we want this, this, and this, and they know exactly what they want. But it's kind of, it's the briefs where you get the creative freedom that you kind of get to flex your muscles a little bit. So when it's come to talking to the artists and stuff like that, I've just kind of gone, this is kind of the subject matter. This is the, you know, we want a mask, or we want a character, or we want a drunken monk to for say, and then usually what's been sent back has been mind blowing. So it's been really nice to work with artists that get it.
Yeah, and that, as I said, it can be a challenge to find the right people for whatever your project is. Shipping, there might be some contention over the shipping prices. I find that hard to believe. I think the shipping prices are really reasonable, to be honest with you. Tracked to untracked, I mean, I've spent so much more on much less over the last year.
I've had stuff shipped from Japan that's cost like 30 quid. This is just estimates at this point. This is using Peregrine Coast, who we're hoping to partner with for fulfillment. We have been speaking to fulfillment people in America, just because such a large quantity of the backers are from America. It just seems to make more sense for us to kind of print the EU and this side of the world stuff in England and get it printed and shipped by Peregrine Coast. And then if we do use the printer that we're kind of using, they have a base in the US as well, so we'd get it printed over there, partner with the fulfillment partner in the US, and then hopefully the shipping costs will be less for those in America.
It's hard to predict ahead of time, but it's certainly something that, if you can do it with those prices and keep that there, then it'll be, I think, really good value. The one thing that I did have a question over, and I don't really want to put you on the spot or criticize, is I felt like that that estimated delivery time was quite optimistic for a printed product, given how much you've got there. But I know that you've got like so much of the book already done.
So it's something that I talked to Doug about as well.
Victory Condition Gaming.
Yes, yeah.
Other streamers exist. Go check Doug out.
There's kind of no worries on our end that the PDF will be complete by October this year. The content's written, it's in the playtesting phase. Any changes that are being made at the moment are kind of minor. It should be like fully complete by the end of June, I would imagine, maybe even sooner than that. The PDF, obviously, putting the time that goes into doing the layout and the design and getting the art after the Kickstarter is finished, is all kind of already planned. Like the plan for the layout is done. It just needs laying out. So, like I say, the October date for the PDF is no worry to us. It just depends on, you know, especially if we decide to get it printed in America as well, and sorting out fulfillment partners over there if we want to keep shipping costs down. And it is our first project under the Slightly Reckless Games name, so we are a little bit new to this. So printing could take a little bit longer than we assume. So, you know, it might say get pushed back to Christmas or early 2024, but people will have the PDFs by October for sure, and then it's just a case of how fast the printers work.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge. You don't really know. It's hard to get estimates until you know how many books are going to sell, and it's hard to predict. You know, it's always hard to predict with Kickstarters, especially when it's the first one. I would rather see the physical book be late and awesome than on time and a bit rubbish. So
I will say that, like,
to,
where everyone at Slightly Reckless Games is like a stickler for quality. Like I mentioned before, Free League, everything they put out is like a high bar for quality. So we're kind of aiming for that same bar. So if it does mean pushing it back a little bit, then we would rather put out a product that meets that bar of quality that is a little bit late. But like I say, the PDF will be ready for October.
Speaking of bars,
yes,
it's coming up to the end of April, and one thing I would love to ask you is I can tell from your dulcet tones and from reading the Kickstarter that you are not a million miles away from Birmingham. You're up in a area, which is, a few hours, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that you might be hitting the bar at UK Games Expo this year?
Potentially. Not as Slightly Reckless Games, though. It's something that I kind of started looking into a little bit too late, and it wasn't like I didn't want to book anything in and then kind of the playtest materials not be ready. That hasn't been the case. The playtest materials are pretty much done and ready to kind of. A few creators have got in touch on Twitter and said we want to make something for Rōnin, so they'll be getting sent out soon. I would love to go to the UK Games Expo as Slightly Reckless Games and playtest it, but I think we're a little bit too late with it being so soon.
Well, there is. I don't know if you know this. UK Games Expo, they have like games on demand, and so it's quite easy to like run games through that way, or just publishing them as maybe not as having like a table, a Slightly Reckless Games table, but just publishing them as games that people can book onto and buy into just as an event. But certainly, if there's a chance that the game might be being play tested, or if not being play tested, just being run as a game that you can play as a punter, then keep your eyes peeled on the UK Games Expo events. Maybe it'll show up there. Or
I will say, if I can get down there and do it, I will. But if it's not this year, certainly we're looking to have like a booth or a table or something there next year, and I think there's a couple of ones in Scotland and one down south that we're looking at as well.
Well, I will also plug our micro RPG convention here in Nottingham. We're doing Orbtoberfest.
I'll come and do it at that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to be very small. If you'd like to come to Orbtoberfest, any of you that might be watching, then we talk about that. We've got a channel on Discord. We are keeping it small on purpose to try and make sure that we keep that family feel rather than, having 10,000 people. So I'm expecting initial ticketings at 25 people. We're really keeping it small so that it'll be fun. We're going to have the venue that we're at is around the corner from a wonderful craft ale pub. In fact, it's a tap house and brewery, and it'll just be fun. So you are, of course, welcome there. As is anyone that's watching in the Nottingham area. Come and talk to us on Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, the link for Discord is down below. I think we should we've had an hour talking about this amazing game. I'm really excited about it. What we normally like to do when we wrap up an interview is try and hit our guests with a one-liner, like a sound bite for their product.
Okay.
And if you're ready, I'll hit you with it. It's not going to be too difficult. You should buy or you should play Rōnin because
you love samurai stuff and you want to either kill characters or be resurrected as a character.
That's amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get my hands on the PDF. I'm really excited about the actual play we're going to do over on Victory Condition Gaming on the 8th, Monday, the 8th of May. Time to be confirmed, but it will probably be sometime between 0 and 23:59 on that day.
Yes.
Doug and his crew are East Coast USA. So that will give us some idea of the kind of the time zones that we're kind of trying to deal with. But it's a national holiday in the UK. Go us.
Yes, it is a bank holiday Monday, so that's it's worked out well. I think we were looking at maybe 8, 9-ish GMT. I'm not sure though.
Okay. in the evening.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that should be fine. Yoel says, if I can't go to Oktoberfest, I will yank Phil to a microcon in Sweden instead. Yes, so Sweden Rolls, who is another amazing streamer, Andreas Lundström and the team do incredible podcast, all with voice actors, and it's just great. And Yoel has, and the rest of us patrons actually, but Yoel has kind of spearheaded this a Sweden Rolls convention. Again, the details for that are pretty widely published now on not only the Sweden Rolls Discord if you're a patron, but also the Sweden Rolls Facebook and Twitter and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be incredible, and that's that's like the Saturday after this actual play. So what date is that? I can't think now. Someone add 8 to whatever that other number is.
Yeah.
We're looking at is that the 13th, I guess? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a busy week for us. Thank goodness after that very late night game of Rōnin, I've got a few days off. So, but we're going to be, my other half and I will be getting on a plane on Thursday. I'll try and do some content if I manage to take any equipment with me from there. But if you're in Sweden, check that out. It's at the old prison. I've forgotten the name of the island, but Yoel will type it in a second and then I'll show that up. But yeah, it's going to be great fun. There's a whole load of Swedish role-playing royalty there as well, including the creators of Cult, Mutant, and artists that were so fundamental to Swedish role-playing. Thank you, Yoel Longholmen. So yeah, just really incredible guests that Yoel has managed to pull across with Andreas. So if you're into Cult, if you're into Mutant, Forbidden Lands, Drakok, Demoner, any of these Swedish games that have now come over into UK and well, kind of non-Swedish role-playing culture, then it all starts with these people. So we're going to be there. Oktoberfest, as I said, that's in October. Everyone is welcome. UK Games Expo, hopefully we'll see Sacha there. We'll definitely see Sacha and, unfortunately, me and Doug and a couple of other amazing role players over at Victory Condition Gaming next Monday. And I think until then, it's time to call it. Sacha Lightfoot, so grateful that you were able to join.
No, thank you for having me.
Really, I love the project.
Thank you.
Wish you all the success in the world because it was expensive and I want my damn product. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And for everyone who's watched, whether you're live or you're catching up, hope you enjoyed the show. Please hit like, please subscribe. Please let us know what you think down in the comments below. Come and talk to us on Discord. If you really love what we do, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. But until next time, thank you so much once again. And I hope that your dice rolls continue to be way better than mine. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.